welcome back to another week of Final Score Overtime. 6A district play. We'll hear what these two have to say about those games and a lot of other good football happening around the basin. Ben, Aaron, you guys have a good weekend?
I did.
Yeah, Jake, I was here with you, so.
What a
working all
silly
weekend.
question. He's a goober.
And I see no red going on. No red being worn today. I won't ask why, but I think I got a pretty good idea.
They're going to act like this is the first time they asked this question.
Let's start with some high school recap going into week 7. Let's start with Lee and OHS, the first game of next. Oh no, sorry. Excuse me. Recap of
We're
the
not
games.
doing previews
start.
yet?
I was gonna say
My
they didn't
bad,
play
my bad.
yet. Hold on now.
It's actually the second week in a row I've misread my script. OHS and Permian game. We'll start with the game of the week. I'll
Yes.
be the camera hog and start with myself.
I was gonna say.
Yep, let's hear about it.
Let's do it.
Pretty, an ugly game to start, and you can tell a lot of these teams, or they have a lot of animosity towards each other. Like a lot of penalties and a lot of personal fouls committed just in the first quarter alone. You could tell multiple scrums, 0-yard run plays turning into scrums at the end, and teams, you can tell, hands flying towards the face at the end of a lot of plays. A lot of, like I said, just a lot of animosity. You could see it boiling over pretty early, and that contributed to the slow start of the game. But then Permian, kind of figured it out. I talked to Coach Ellison after. He's like, all we needed to do was just keep our heads straight and forward. They knew they had a really good chance of winning that game. It seemed like they had the better team to start with in the beginning. You could really tell OHS really couldn't get anything going on offense. Yeah. There was actually the closest play that they had to scoring. Receiver hits both of his hands in the end zone of just a busted coverage from Permian. And, it's like, I don't mean to be mean, but, he had stone hands.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much the biggest chance they had to score all game. Just Permian all over after.
Now, we know it was 3-0 after the first quarter. What was Odessa High from what you were seeing? Doing in that first quarter, maybe Permian not doing, that kind of kept it close?
Both teams, at least the defense seemed strong in the beginning. I don't know if that's just because, like I said, a lot of these penalties and being amped up as well. A lot of Permian's drives would be stalled because of personal fouls specifically, and just penalties in general, holding penalties, a couple other flags going in the favor of OHS, but the running game really got to them. Jake, did you have any thoughts for this game of the week?
I wasn't here, so I didn't get to watch all of it, but I watched the highlights, and I think we talked about it last week, that Permian front pushing against the OHS, front 8, and it just kind of wore on him throughout the game, and that's why we saw the final score that we did.
Yeah.
That's a great point, Jake.
Yeah. I'd try.
Aaron, I want to talk to you about this Andrews team. They look really good to start this year. I want to get your thoughts on how they did.
So they started the season with that loss to Lubbock Cooper, which Cooper's a good team.
That's a very good team.
Yeah, so I don't think anyone was super surprised by it. But they haven't lost since then.
Nope.
And then they got a nice, I think it was 27-26 win over Canyon.
41-22.
Where did I get that number?
That was that was from a game. I can't remember what. I know that score was from somewhere.
I'm stuck in week 6.
Stuck in week 6. It's all good though.
Anyway, so they got a bigger win over Canyon, who was previously undefeated.
Yes.
So I've just been really impressed with the way that they've continued this season. So I think Brett Leach has obviously stepped up. I thought my pants were on backwards. He's done everything that we expected from him. He can throw the ball. He can also run though too. And then he has a great receiving core. So I've been impressed with Mustangs.
Yeah.
They've been fun to watch this year. Yeah, I've really enjoyed watching their highlights. Brett Leach, he can throw.
He's a baller.
Yeah.
27-26 was their win over Hereford in week 6. Indeed. I was like, that score didn't come out of nowhere,
I
folks.
thought,
Yeah. No, but that was a nice win. Thinking about some other games. Midland Lee, we probably ought to talk about them with Friendship.
Oh, yeah.
Aaron, down 28-7. And you were there for the entire first quarter.
Yeah.
Well, what did you see going on in that first quarter when the Rebels kind of had trouble, and then obviously they were able to take care of it from there?
Yeah, I was shocked. Excuse me, but Donovan Smith for Friendship, they're not overhyping him at all.
No,
he's the real deal.
He's for real.
Yeah. So So like that was impressive, and but I was also shocked by Midland Lee's defense. Down 28-7 at the start of the second quarter.
Yep.
And then Mikey threw that bomb to Fungi to start off the second, and then they kind of got things rolling after that. But I think we talked to Hartman yesterday, just kind of a sluggish start. But he said none of the guys were concerned. You know, they were like, Coach, we've been in this situation before. Like, we're not worried. And Coach Hartman wasn't worried either.
Seemed like they had some defensive stands too, safety. They had a goal line stand.
So I think it was just kind of
got
a
them going.
slow start for Lee. I don't think they were necessarily playing horrible or anything happened. Serrano did go out in the first quarter because they thought that he'd sprained his ankle, taped it up, and then he was back in and played. So.
Was he wearing number 37?
He was.
Okay, I was super confused when I was watching highlights.
It was representing someone.
I'm not sure.
Did a great job reporting that night, obviously.
Oh man, no, I think aside from the Lee getting its act together. By the way, they outscored them 52-8 after that slow start. So credit where credit's due. I think the big takeaway from that is Friendship is the real deal, at least in terms of being a playoff contender in this district, which obviously has not been the case in a long time. Another school struggled. The Purple Storm.
Ben, I have to ask you. I don't have the tissue box up here. I'll leave it on your desk. I know this is going to be a game that upsets you.
Well,
Crane taking their first loss.
Yeah, they were 42-20 Denver City. I was at this game for the first quarter and a half. It was interesting because Denver City got the first 14 points in this game, but really Crane was moving the ball, and they were kind of doing one of these things defensively where they would either stuff Denver City on the run. Both teams were, well, especially Denver City, they were kind of running the ball. They would either stuff them or, it'd be a nice little 9-10 yard gain, but they'd stuff them maybe, 20% of the time, and 9-10 yard gain maybe like 70-80% of the time. So it's kind of one of these things where, tug of war where you could see it eventually going back Crane's way, but, a bigger team for what it's worth. I think this will be something that hopefully, if you're a Crane fan, that they kind of rally behind and, had a nice win over Ozona, had a little reality check as to where you need to improve, and we'll see.
Tim Tebow, you'll never see a team play harder.
Yeah. No, that was so that was kind of surprising. And then I think I had, the other game was interesting to me. Kahoma at home defeating Idalou. Zach Schneider, we were looking at his box score. Kid's a quarterback, threw 10 passes, 176 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns. That's how they do it, and they got a nice little win over Idalou. So
what year is he?
He's a senior.
Mm-hmm. Is he going anywhere?
I'm not sure.
Zach?
I'm not sure if he's got offers. He might, honestly, I don't know off the top of my head, but he might have offers for baseball too, because I know he's a pretty solid baseball kid. So that's just off the top of my head. But he's.
I wouldn't be able to tell he's a solid baseball kid because he throws 10 times a day.
Yeah, true. Although he does have kind of a little baseball motion there.
Yes.
But so, all in all, a pretty interesting week.
Yeah.
Let's transition into the previews of these games coming up this week.
We'll go to break first.
And, we'll go to break first and then come back with the previews of next week's high school games.
When you got a big job, you need a reliable work truck. From flatbeds, roustabouts, and crane bodies, it's all here at Stanley Ford Andrews. Our fleet sales crew can get you in the right truck for the right job. No one has more in stock than Stanley Ford and Andrews.
Welcome back to the preview section of Final Score Overtime. We'll be looking at the Basin's high school games coming up this week. The first game that we want to take a look at is number 19 Lee playing the Odessa High Broncos.
Yeah, this is going to be tough, Aaron.
It's going to be tough for the Broncos.
No, yes, for the Broncos, I should
clarify.
say. To clarify. Rebels, by the way, we should mention Loic Fungi, obviously a wonderful talent, wonderful career. He had a personal career high, 228 yards receiving against Friendship, our athlete of the week. Shout out one time.
Broke Lee's single game catch record too.
11
with
catches, yeah.
There you go. Yeah, and it's funny too because 11 catches, 3 touchdowns, and Aaron, you and I were talking about it. That it feels like every time we see a Loic Fungee highlight, it's just him going over the top. But he does do it in other ways too.
He broke his own record in the yards.
Oh, and
because he had 208 against Abilene High last year.
I was gonna say I know this wasn't his
so
only 200
he's
yard
1-2 right now.
Wow. No, he's something else. I think this will be tough for Odessa High to kind of slow not only him down, but that running game. That's the thing about Midland Lee. Yeah, like you can't really overcommit to stopping Fungee because they can run the ball well enough.
And Hartman says that.
Yeah, and he knows it. He says if you're going to stop one, we'll just go the other.
Yeah.
And to this point, no one's been able to kind of call that bluff.
Yeah, Davis had 217 yards on 27 carries in that game. That's a tough attack to stop. I mean, 313 through the air and 368 on the ground, I think. Yeah. I mean, I don't see Odessa High really keeping this game tight. I think Lee's the best team in the Basin right now.
I think.
I was going to ask, what does Odessa High have to do, or what has to go their way for this team?
Turnovers.
It's probably going to have to be turnovers. That front seven is you're going to have to keep. You probably are going to have to double Loic, and just hope that front seven can, with no help at all, no extra help at all, kind of hold their own and keep Lee honest. And a lot of turnovers, and then maybe a big player too, missed tackle, get a long touchdown, something like that. That's probably what I would anticipate.
They really need their defensive backs to step up and be able to at least slow down Fungee.
Especially the other receivers. We don't talk about the other receivers enough, but those other receivers are pretty solid too.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be tough.
Next game we'll go to is Permian going to Tascosa.
Yes. Well,
Tascosa.
They'll actually.
Tascosa?
You said that sometime last week.
Bellson, you said
I always
Tascosa.
mess up some. I've messed up some.
No, it just sounded like you gave him a nickname.
They're going to be at home
Tascosa.
for this one, Permian against Tascosa. But it's always the classic two very similar teams, Aaron. And I don't know. Tascosa's an interesting team because they do bring back, I forget the coach's kid's name,
Plunk.
Joseph Plunk, I think.
Quarterback.
Pesky little quarterback. Threw 3 passes last week.
2 touchdowns.
2 touchdowns. That's a fun little note. That's like Zach Schneider-esque, very.
Yeah.
But they don't have King Doru, which was their big hitter last year, who is balling out at Purdue as a true freshman. We should say as well. Permian, though, I think Permian. I think Tascosa probably got to give them like the slight edge in terms of being the favorites, but.
Permian also has Easton Hernandez
they
back.
They got Easton Hernandez back. I think
he's kind of getting his groove back.
I think the whole team's kind of getting their groove back a little bit. I kind of sense from what I'm hearing from Permian and just seeing from what I've been able to see, they got a little pep in their step despite that 0-3 start to the season.
Oh, I just one of the crazy stats I saw, Tascosa had 12 different ball carriers last week.
Oh, yeah.
And 7 of them had more than 20 yards on the ground. I mean, 20 yards isn't a lot, but when you're getting that production from 7 different people, you can blow games open with that,
True.
Yes.
Next game will be Friendship and Midland High.
Yeah, Friendship, well, we talked about it against Midland Lee. Friendship looks like the real deal, at home. Donovan Smith is just so, he honestly, I'd have to look at their stats, but he does it all for them almost in terms of passing and running. You saw it, Aaron. It's not just, he coaches kids, so for a guy who's as mobile as he is, he stays in the pocket and actually tries to, I think, respect the play enough and not just totally break it open with his athleticism, but he obviously can do that. And I don't know. It all starts with stopping him, and I don't know. Hopefully, Midland High did have a rough go against Tascosa last week, so hopefully this will maybe be a little better opportunity for them, but it's going to be tough.
I want to mention something. This is unrelated to this game, but Midland High has been not just on the road a ton, they've traveled so far. Coach Anaskavich was saying yesterday that by the end of the season, it'll have been probably more than over 3,000 miles that they've traveled.
Yeah, no, I know.
Because they go to El Paso so much, they went up to Amarillo.
They went down to the Valley.
They went to the Valley.
Yep.
So they've traveled a ton too, which I'm not going to say would have made them win any games.
Yeah.
But it does take a toll.
No, it definitely does.
But they are at home the next 3 district games, I think.
Yeah.
Or they're in the basin,
Yeah, I think that really does have an effect on how a team plays. Sitting in a bus before you play a football game, that's tough on anyone. And I mean, another long road trip to Friendship this week. It's tough for the Bulldogs this year. Just a stat that I wanted to throw out there: 4 receivers for Friendship last week averaged 15 yards per catch or more. Drew Hutcutt, obviously.
Is he
Cooper
related
Scott,
Kirby
Clyde
Hutcutt,
Coker, Jordan Madden. They all were just making plays. Their run game, though, 52 total yards on the ground against Lee. So, and 26 came from Donovan Smith. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, Drew Hokut, son of Texas Tech AD Kirby. Shout out on time. Yes,
I thought about that. I wasn't sure.
He's got another kid who I think might be a linebacker on the team as well, sophomore. So you'll be hearing from the
Lots of
This isn't going to be the last.
Texas
You're going to
ties
hear
to
from the Hokuts at Friendship.
Next game will be Sanderson and Sierra Blanca.
Yeah, getting to the part, Sanderson. It's tough to get a gauge on some of these teams. You kind of know generally where some of these 6-man teams are. But it's kind of honestly the most, at least we can put our hands on, is just kind of comparing common opponents. You kind of know where some teams stack up. And I think, Jake, you kind of have this in your notes. Both teams have taken care of business against teams they should have. Sanderson win over Lubbock Homeschool, win over Fort Hancock, lost, although kind of respectable, loss to Grand Falls Royalty, lost to Garden City. But, that's not necessarily anything that isn't to be expected.
They played some tough teams.
Yeah, and Sierra Blanca, similar. This will be a district game, though, so it'll be a big game for the Eagles. But I can't say I have a particular lean on this game either way.
Take the over. That's
I mean, it was 6-man. Yeah.
Solid advice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sticking with 6-man, we'll go to number 7 Rankin and Nueces Canyon.
Yeah, Nueces Canyon, 5-1. Although I'm trying to look at who they beat. They lost to Balmorhea. They've beaten 45 Marfa. They snuck out that win over Fort Davis. Gave Fort Davis its first loss of the year.
I remember them beating someone in our area.
Yeah. San Antonio or San Angelo beat a school there. Trent. Yeah, I mean, I would expect Rankin, they had the big, I think they were off after that loss to Sterling City in the game of the week. I would say Rankin scores at least 63. That's the only prediction I can make with this game.
They're averaging 60 points a game.
Yeah,
so,
I think Rankin will come out swinging and trying to prove to themselves, we got to get going. District play coming up, and I think they'll come out on fire.
Next game between 2 struggling teams so far, Fort Hancock 0-4 and 2-4 Marfa.
Yeah, Marfa.
How did Marfa do last year?
They might have gone, well, it's tough too because they had the whole, I think, double forfeit situation with Sanderson.
Oh, right.
I can't remember. They might have won, I want to say maybe 2 games, one or 2 games. They got a win, forfeit mercy rule win over El Paso Emmanuel, which actually that's a game I think that if they would have played, they probably would have won. They did have a nice win over Buena Vista before going on the bye week. Buena Vista is a little shorthanded this year just in terms of numbers. This will be at Fort Hancock. I think this is, again, the Shorthorns can certainly reel in. But yeah, the final tune-up for district play as well, so we'll see.
Just looking at the stats, it's amazing. They've only scored double digits in 1 game.
Yeah, well, that's.
I mean, you can.
Well, and that's one of those things. Everyone
score.
likes to think 6-man. You score all these points, but I mean, you've seen it. If one team's just, a mismatch for the other team, it's tough. It's tough for it to even stop that momentum at all. Yeah.
Back to some 11-man football. 7-0 Greenwood taking on Snyder.
Oh, now Aaron, this is Snyder team.
That's the one
that jumped out to you.
Snyder beat Fort Stockton 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
A little surprising there, but I don't expect Greenwood would have that issue.
Yeah.
Because Snyder was able to hold Fort Stockton to
7.
7.
Yeah.
So, and Greenwood they're professionals at scoring.
Yeah,
so
that's what they do.
I don't think they would have that issue.
I think that game said more about Fort Stockton than it did Snyder, for sure.
Yeah, and I think, too, probably Snyder in that game had a little bit of a – they had a lot to play for. They have a new head coach. They're trying to get him his first win. That probably gave them a little extra juice every game until they finally got it for him. So, and Greenwood, when I was out talking to our other athlete of the week from 2 weeks ago, Trey Cross, and, talked a little bit with Coach Purser about it. And, that was a game that certainly raised some eyebrows around the district, that Snyder result. And I'd imagine that, not only the coaches, but the players and those teams, that was kind of a message to everyone else that, hey, you can't, Fort Stockton undefeated, Snyder doesn't have a win, but, they come into your building, get a win. You can't take anything for granted. So I think that message will be delivered throughout the week.
Next game will be Sweetwater and Pecos.
Yeah, I don't know. Pecos, listen, they kind of snuck out a win against Monahans when, not that they were out of that game, but that was back and forth, 34-32. And I think Pecos, compared to last year especially, they're looking a lot better in terms of competing for the playoff spot. I'm trying to see if I can find the standings here, but
I think they're 2-1.
1-2.
1-2.
1-2, but honestly, I think last year 2 wins got you in the playoffs, and so this could be one of the games where, honestly, this might be the decider in terms of that last playoff spot. Sweetwater, kind of a team that, was the highest highs and then the lowest lows going. I'm not sure if they went winless or close to winless, and now they're a little bit better. They'll be at home for this one. Pecos does still have Lamesa, which is winless, so they could maybe get a win there if you're the Eagles. But, yeah, Pecos, I think they certainly got a chance in this one. They might be able to get 3, and then they got Snyder the last week of the season. They might be able to get 3 wins in this district or something, maybe 4.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Sticking in this district, time now to tease our game of the week coming up for Friday. It'll be Fort Stockton and Monahans.
Yes, and Monahans, boy, oh boy. Aaron, we talked about it with Monahans. Even despite the slow start, all those games were non-district. So in a sense, it didn't really matter. I don't want to say it didn't matter, but as far as playoffs, and then they get into district, they got 2 wins, and I think they're feeling pretty good. They're going. They're gonna be at home for this one, I believe. Yeah, at home for Fort Stockton. Fort Stockton, though,
1-1 in districts?
Yes.
Because they had a bye week?
Yes.
Monahans is 2-1 in district right now.
What's Fort Stockton?
Fort Stockton's 1-1 because they were off last week.
Yep.
And to your point, Aaron, this is going to be the first game since that game
Since
against
that loss.
Snyder. So I think Fort Stockton's going to come out swinging. I think
so,
Fort
too.
Stockton has a little, I think Monahans has a little bit of, they're second in the district right now after Greenwood. So I think they got a little belief, and we talked about Snyder wanting to play for their coach Wes Wood, get his first win. I think Monahans had a similar dynamic with Coach Dow, really trying to get that first win for him. They've got their first 2. I think they're going to be feeling pretty good. I think not Lobo Stadium. Help me out here. Estes Memorial Stadium. There we go. Estes Memorial Stadium is going to be rocking. And, I think this will be an interesting game. And 2 teams that played a very classic overtime game in our game of the week last year when they were on the road for this one.
True.
So I think these teams still match up pretty well.
Yeah, I was going to say the biggest thing for Fort Stockton in this game is to make sure that Dominic Aguilar doesn't have to throw the ball 25 times.
Yeah.
They need to be in the game. They are best when they are running the ball.
Agreed.
Aguilar, he is a good quarterback. He is a very good quarterback, but he's a sophomore. He just doesn't have that experience throwing the ball, and I don't think that plays well if Fort Stockton gets down. And in district this year, out of district, the Lobos were averaging 7.75 points a game, and the defense was giving up 36. Now in district, they're scoring 42.7. The defense is giving up 24.7. Yeah, the defensive improvement wasn't stellar, but that offensive gain, that changes the field for them. I think even though these records don't match up, man, this is a very good matchup for a district game.
I think it's going to depend on what Fort Stockton's defense is doing on Friday.
Yeah, no, I think so. And and I was just looking to verify.
Because I think Pecos gave them some fits last week.
Yeah.
Some turnovers. And
For each of Monahan's losses, I mean, Midland Christian's kind of in its own. That's kind of its own little world in terms of comparing apples to oranges.
Same
in
with
terms
Andrews, I think.
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say in terms of size of the schools, it's tough to get a gauge on it. But every non-district school Monahan's played was bigger, as opposed to I think Fort Stockton was a little bit the other way around. So that probably helped Fort Stockton out a little bit. Probably hurt Monahan's more than it should have. So I think to your point, I think the teams are more evenly matched than the records would suggest, and we could be in for a good game at this game of the week, Jake. And again, this went to overtime last year, so early start. We might be down to the wire here once again.
Who knows? I might be doing my live shots while the games are still going on.
Yeah, hopefully not.
Coming up, we'll be looking, after an exciting weekend of college football, we'll be looking at some of those games as well as these games going on next week, as well as who the desk has in their Heisman pick so far.
117. 57.
55. 37.
What do all these people have in common? It's the number of miles they were willing to travel to get the right vehicle at the best price. And of course, we all have a number, but how far would you drive for a great deal? It may be shorter than you think. Come visit us at Stanley Ford Andrews.
So, what's your number?
Welcome back to Final Score Overtime. Time now to talk about the college football games of this past week and the ones coming up next week as well. I know we had some pretty big storylines coming out this past week of some college games. Let's start with that Tech-Baylor game.
Yeah, I mean, for those that didn't see it, Texas Tech loses in double overtime, but that first overtime was the one not only getting all the headlines in, but apparently here later on in the week, it's developing some new headlines. Basically, Baylor has the ball first in overtime, snap the ball, bad snap that goes off the center's
tush.
Tush, yes. And Tech recovers it. Refs call it an illegal snap, as they should not have, and it should have given the ball to Tech, or at least ended the Baylor possession, give Tech just a field goal to win. Instead, Baylor just gets a 5-yard penalty. They score a touchdown. Then Tech goes on to lose in double overtime. Kirby Hocutt kind of calls out the league. Well, no, I don't even think he called out.
What did he say?
He said, just so people know, yes, we did notice. We've been in constant communication with the league. They've admitted that it was the wrong call, and we're going to work to ensure whatever that we do. I can't remember exactly, but that was the gist of it. It wasn't saying this is atrocious. And then the Big 12 just here Wednesday has come out and fined Kirby Hocutt $25,000 for releasing that statement, which I think is ludicrous. I think
it's excessive.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think, I don't know, like these fines, unless
you were bad-mouthing the league or saying that's the worst call I've ever seen in a football, then yeah, okay. But he's just saying a fact, they admitted it was wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't fine him for that.
And, I know people like to say, and I actually genuinely agree with this most of the time, that, that was a bad break, but, honestly, we'll talk about the SMU game. I think they had one of their overtimes where Tulsa scored a touchdown, and they did the frame by frame. You looked at it, and really, there was a half second where there was 0 on the play clock, and Tulsa was able to snap it, and they got the touchdown, and that could have been, those kind of things, okay, that happens, but, this is something. And I get the argument that you're going to miss calls both ways, and that just happened to be an overtime. But this is one that is clearly – it almost looked like the refs didn't know what the call is supposed to be if that happens, and they kind of inaccurately ruled on the play, kind of like what you would protest if this was an MLB game as opposed to just a misjudgment call. So, I think Texas Tech fans have every right to be pretty angry about this. Yeah. By the way, they were, I think, 10.5-point underdogs for that game. I thought they were massively undersold in that game against Baylor. And to their credit, I think they proved it. But yeah, they'll be at home for Iowa State this
It
week.
would have been their second win in a row.
Oh, I know,
against
over a
ranked
ranked team. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did Baylor move up in the rankings after that?
Baylor
They
jumped
are-
SMU.
Of course they
sadly.
did.
They're 18th in the country, I believe.
They are.
Right above the
18th,
Ponies.
right above.
What's SMU?
19.
Oh man.
Okay, this
They got a
Red
big
River
game
game,
against
though.
Temple.
We got to talk about this Red River.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, please. You guys have any thoughts about what you saw on Saturday?
Well, what did you see, Jake? Red River rivalry.
I mean, it was a good game. Texas never really, I don't want to say, they were in the game the entire time. It was never more than like a 10-point game. I know Jared's going to come in my ear with something.
Yeah.
But Jalen Hurts, he was solid. I would not say he was exemplary by any means. What I thought really won the game was tackling.
I was
Texas
gonna
did not
say-
tackle well. Oklahoma tackled well.
It's Texas
The Oklahoma
tackling.
defense won
Yeah.
that game.
The Texas secondary tackling. There was those two plays where there was the one that everyone saw where CeeDee Lamb kind of got his way in the middle, surrounded by 5 people and ran out.
just kinda bounced
and then
out.
there was the other one, I think, going the other way where he broke 2 or 3 tackles and then worked his way down. That was
Dude, something else.
that was atrocious, honestly.
CeeDee Lamb is
CeeDee
for
Lamb's the
real.
real
Yeah.
He
deal.
is for real.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, honestly, you could almost boil it down to those 2 plays and not say, that they wouldn't have gone on to score later on that drive, but man, those were backbreakers. You when points are as, crucial as they are, you can't allow those kind of things to happen.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma's defense, 9 sacks in that game. It's tough to win a game if your quarterback's on the ground the entire game for Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still thought Ellinger looked pretty good despite
Yeah.
the fact that his offensive line wasn't really helping him a whole lot.
You're not picking up
I think
blitzes
so.
whatsoever.
I think so.
The big upset of the week, though.
Big upset of the week. Georgia falling
Woo!
to South Carolina.
That one
Wow.
kid, I apologize, don't know his name. The dude that got 3 picks
Oh.
against Georgia, I don't know what his name
No,
is.
I can't remember
But
his
he got
name
3
either.
picks, had the interception.
I like it.
My sister's South Carolina grad, so go Cox. I was watching the game, and I was when they had a chance to just get the field goal to win it in overtime, and they missed it. It was like a 33-yarder. I was like, that was their chance. But then here they come, stand up USC.
Good news for
then-
my Tigers in the
I
SEC
know.
East, I tell you what.
Mizzou just sitting here sipping tea, top of the SEC East all of a sudden.
And,
I didn't realize Mizzou only has 1 loss this year.
That first week
Against
against
Wyoming?
Wyoming,
Hey.
just gotta get it out of
Watch
your
the Cowboys.
system.
Kelly Bryant was still, learning the
Yeah.
system,
Bounced back pretty nicely since then.
at home too.
the best thing that
Yeah,
I
we
took
don't talk
away
about it.
from this Georgia
No, it
game,
wasn't
though,
at home.
I saw Rodrigo
That's
Blankenship,
right.
the kicker for Georgia.
Yes.
Had a hilarious photo with Quavo before the game.
Ah, yeah,
They're both
yeah.
doing the cool look. He's got his pads on, no facial expression whatsoever.
Yep.
If you take a picture with a rap star, you got to make the kick to stay in the game.
Yeah, that was tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was tough. Oh my goodness.
Let's burn through some of these games that are happening this week.
Yes. Let's start with West Virginia traveling to Norman. They'll be taking on now number 5, since Georgia lost, Oklahoma.
Yeah,
No.
West Virginia was hanging with Iowa State for a little bit, but I'd be concerned if I'm a Mountaineer fan how Iowa State was kind of able to pull away there later on in that game. Oklahoma, I mean, I think they're going to come to play every week. I mean, we've seen it. Lincoln Riley, phenomenal coach. I don't think they'll have any letdown from this game after winning, the Red River rivalry.
I see how you roll.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see how Oklahoma defense. I mean, they had a really good week last week. Let's see if they can hold West Virginia to an actual reasonable amount of points and not have it be like 60-30 or 60-40.
Yeah.
Next game we'll look at Iowa State traveling to Tech.
Texas Tech, oh my God, hammer Texas Tech. They are going to come out so angry after not only getting robbed in their eyes, and by the way, a lot of players, I don't know if you saw this, Aaron, a lot of players were retweeting and liking some of these tweets about how Big 12, this awful call, this, that. So this isn't just something that it was kind of stunk for the fans, but players are moving on. No, I think this is something that did not sit well with them, and I think they're going to come out irritated. And this might be the best. Well, I don't know. We had a good showing 2 weeks ago, but this might be the best 11 a.m. showing we've seen
Yeah,
from the
and
Texas
I've
Tech
been really
game in
impressed with Jet
years.
Duffy too.
Give him credit. I was not a believer in terms
No.
of him doing this. Yeah, and he's looked really well. I'll give him credit. I did not see that coming when it started 2 weeks ago against Oklahoma State. Yeah.
Next game will be 18 Baylor, who jumped SMU this week, going to Oklahoma State.
I don't think they deserve that ranking, but I got you, Jake.
Yeah, I
think
don't.
they
Man, I don't
deserve
know. I don't really love either of these teams, to be honest. I wasn't that impressed by Baylor. I wasn't that impressed by. I kind of didn't know what to make of Oklahoma State, but that loss against Texas Tech wasn't great. And then so I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised with anything, but I maybe a little bit toward Oklahoma State just because of Chuba.
I like Oklahoma State at home. I do. Yeah.
I would like for them to win, obviously, because of bias reasons. Baylor's undefeated, correct? Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, they are.
I mean, very sneakily undefeated after the state that their program had been in the past.
They did get a good win over. I say a good win over Iowa, but they should have had that in the bag. So never mind. Disregard.
Last college game, we will look at Kansas traveling down to Texas.
No.
Les Miles, baby. Les Miles, look out.
Take Kansas, take the Jayhawks on the or on the
pick
spread.
the points, yeah.
Take the points.
That's the most respect you can give to Kansas. I think Texas will come out pretty angry as well.
I agree.
Because Kansas did travel to, or I don't know if they played in Norman, but they had them.
It was
7-0. Okay, so yes, it was in. So granted, they have the home field advantage, all that stuff, but they came out swinging. all these Les Miles teams, if they're going to come out and play, this is another game to come out and play. When you're going.
They still
to Texas.
do though have miles to go.
Yeah, they do have miles to go, and I mean, Kansas did beat Texas in football a couple years ago.
They did.
Remember that. Let's talk about your show ponies real quick, though, Jake.
Okay, we'll give them some love really quick. This Temple is another. I think I'm very skeptical about SMU because every week I come in and I'm like, I'm really scared about this game.
I'm very skeptical about Temple, though, to be honest.
I mean, you're skeptical of Temple?
Yes, they play really good defense, and they got Anthony Russo, a pretty good quarterback. But every now and then, especially on the road, he can struggle. I watched a lot of that Buffalo game. He looked awful, and that team did not play well.
And that's their only loss this year.
Yeah, so I mean, I think SMU, by the way, that was last week, right? That was the best game of the week.
It was 2 weeks ago.
Or 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
I'm with Aaron. I was stuck on that 2 weeks ago train. But still, that was the best game 2 weeks ago.
And a game that I told you that I was scared about because of their ability to.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a close game.
And we were getting blown out.
Yeah.
But it was the ponies responding why we won.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's a close game. I think Temple could present some problems, but I like the ponies in this
Take
game.
Temple plus 7.5. This will be a touchdown game. I feel it.
I could feel the points there, though.
Hashtag Phil Ford. I'm hoping for it. Coming up. Oh, excuse me. No, it is time now to talk about who we have on the Heisman watch. I'll start with Ben. Ben, you got to tell me your top three.
I'll go 3. Jalen Hurts does it all. Keeping the streak alive, trying to. And runs probably more than the other guys I'll have here. And then, honestly, between Joe Burrow and Tua, I hate that it kind of goes like this. But, I feel like when it's not a runaway, it just goes to the best player or the player on the better team. And I think Alabama's probably going to be the better team.
Yeah.
I think between Alabama and LSU, see where I'm going here?
No, I disagree so wholeheartedly.
Well, no, hear me out. I'm not saying
Jake's just
they
over
deserve
here shaking
it.
his head.
I'm not saying they deserve it, but I think probably how this unfolds if Tua Tagovailoa and Joe Burrow go on their, respective trend lines. Tua, by the way, he's got 1 interception, 27 touchdowns, 1 interception.
That means nothing. He throws the ball 15 times a game.
I know.
Alabama just smokes everyone.
I know. But I could see this being one of those deals where if they're kind of similar, Alabama's maybe the number 1 team at the end of the year, they get LSU at home, then you get the slight edge to Tua there. But, I mean, that's a very close, that's a 1A, 1B for me.
Sure. I'll start with the quarterback who actually has 1 interception, and it kind of does mean something. Justin Fields is my 3rd pick.
Yes.
He's been masterful for Ohio State this year, both on the ground, 18 touchdowns, almost 1,300 yards in the air, 98 completions to just 1 interception. That's an efficiency in the age of analytics. Number 2, Jalen Hurts. He's been a stud for Oklahoma this year. I love his storyline. I cannot wait till Oklahoma, knock wood, plays Alabama in the playoffs. This is the matchup that I have been dreaming of. And my number 1 guy, I'm going to go Joey Cool out of LSU. He's just been a stud all year around. I don't know how many interceptions he has, but
3.
He's 300-yard, 400 games all over the place. And they actually played some very tough teams going on so far. But that is my top 3 Heisman picks.
Yeah.
Okay. We just talked about the Oklahoma game, and I think CeeDee Lamb has been very impressive.
Big time
I love
baller.
that. I love that.
Yes. 10 catches against Texas this last Saturday. And my goodness, he can just avoid any defensive player.
I know.
Just
Would we
elusive.
would we all agree him over Judy in terms of who would you rather have?
I will not.
I don't know.
take
I don't
that,
know.
I don't know. I
That's
think
tight.
production-wise, you got to give the nod to CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, but he's gonna be my 3. I think Tua is gonna be my 2.
Well, fitting.
Right, and then, but I want to pick Jalen over Tua just because of how athletic he is and how versatile he's been. And I know that's
I
it's a pretty bold take there, especially since Alabama obviously picked Tua over
I know.
Jalen.
I was gonna say I know a head
But I
coach who
think
had a
Jalen
chance to
hurts.
take
But
Jalen over Tua.
I think Jalen fits better with this Sooners.
No, I think he
offense.
does. I think he does.
I think he's able to run a lot more than he would have. He can obviously throw the ball.
Yeah.
But
I think it's easier for him
2
to.
Oklahoma Sooners.
Yeah, I think it's easier for him to run out of this system at Oklahoma than it is to kind of like find his spots within the Alabama more pro system. So
Yeah.
I agree.
And like you just said, you had 2 Oklahoma, or 1 former Oklahoma guy. All of my picks actually were transfers. Ohio State transfer, Alabama transfer.
Georgia, right?
Yeah, and a Georgia transfer. So,
Joe
just,
Burrow played at Ohio State. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I was
Just, I think it's so cool how these guys get chances to get
And
into
how
a
they
different
mesh
system.
better,
and,
yeah.
Yeah.
I have CD, and then, man, that second spot, I don't know. It might be Tua. It might be Jalen. I think they're kind of interchangeable right now for me.
Yeah.
It depends on how Jalen finishes the season, and I want to see Tua against really good defense. But then Joe Burrow, he is light years ahead of everyone right now. I think he should be the number 1 pick in the draft this year. He is for real.
We'll have to tell Derek Sibley.
Yeah.
The
Send him to
resident
Miami.
Dolphins fan, maybe not taking for Tua after all this.
Teasing some NFL football, that is exactly what we will be going to, talking about our local teams, Dallas and Houston, and maybe another matchup we want to look at after the break.
When you got a big job, you need a reliable work truck. From flatbeds, roustabouts, and crane bodies, it's all here at Stanley Ford Andrews. Our fleet sales crew can get you in the right truck for the right job. No one has more in stock than Stanley Ford and Andrews.
Welcome back to Final Score Overtime. Time now to talk about the NFL games going on. The first game we'll look at is going to be Indianapolis and Houston. Ben, do you have any thoughts?
Deshaun Watson, dark horse MVP candidate.
Absolutely.
And
I wouldn't even say dark horse at this point.
no, absolutely. Well, not a dark horse, but he's probably like second tier, and he keeps playing that way. You could put him up there at Indianapolis. Especially I like Houston a lot better in this
They beat
game.
the Chiefs.
I was going to say I like them a lot better in this game than I have recently in some of their other games, and they've gotten the job done in those games. So I'm going to probably take the Texans here.
Yeah.
I
no,
think
I'm
the
with
most
that.
impressive part about Houston's win against your Chiefs, I'm so sorry, was the fact that Patrick Mahomes was only on the field for 5 minutes in the second half. Deshaun Watson, instead of just, taking home run chances and, scoring points, he did his job of game management, keeping Patrick Mahomes off the field when Patrick Mahomes. They
That's
knew
how you
Patrick
beat
Mahomes
Kansas
had
City.
I wanted to ask
Exactly.
And just really quickly, as our resident Chiefs correspondent, and our guy Patrick Mahomes, legend out here in West Texas, how are people feeling about him right now? Not his abilities, but a little banged up here a couple weeks in a row now.
Yeah, but I don't think they've lost any hope, with him. I don't think they've.
I just wasn't sure what the vibe was in Chiefs Kingdom around their guy.
I think if anything, people are nervous. They don't want him to be hurt.
I wouldn't even be shocked
I think
to be sad
Houston's
of it.
offensive line has improved so much this season too.
Yeah.
They've given
Yes.
Watson more of a chance than they
Tunsil
did
might be the
first
best
few
left
games.
tackle in football.
Yeah.
He
Definitely.
certainly looks like it. Let's go to two teams that are kind of, low right now. The Dallas Cowboys, the Philadelphia Eagles.
Ooh.
Philadelphia somewhat guaranteeing a win in this game, kind
teams.
of.
Dude,
Almost
I
guaranteed
thought Dallas was gonna run away with this conference. I
Yeah.
thought they're gonna
Yeah.
have
No,
no
no.
problem with their division.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, they just had to start not terrible, and they've been playing great in these second halves, and they've lost by 2, 2, and 10. Although really that was about a touchdown game against the Packers. So I think Dallas will. I think they'll get it right against the Eagles. This is
They have
for
to.
first in the NFC
Yeah.
East.
Yes, this will be, yes, exactly, for first in the NFC East. Both teams need to really be excited for this game. Last game we want to look at, it's a really good matchup. New
Game of the
Orleans.
week?
It's Big Two's game of the week for the NFL. New Orleans and Chicago. These are two teams
Bears
that,
by 50.
Bears by 50.
No, I'm just kidding.
I don't think the game will have
Hot
50
take
points
of the
total.
show.
Yeah.
Bet the under.
Bet the
Yeah.
under, 2 backup quarterbacks. It's not going to be a pretty game, but
I forgot we still
if
had
you like
Tuesday.
defense, this is exactly the
In
type of
Chicago?
game you want to watch.
In New Orleans.
Yes.
Oh.
In the dome.
Ooh.
Your
Weather,
boy
no
Chase
factor.
Daniel, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
MIZ.
Mizzou, shout out.
Although I did say Nagy was slightly optimistic that Mitch plays in this game. I don't think he'll play in this game.
Not holding my breath.
Yeah.
Man, honestly, if I was not a Bears fan, I'd say I kind of like the Saints in this spot. But you know what?
What happened
Bears.
to 50 points?
Well, I actually think the Bears are going to come out swinging after losing to the Raiders. Again, they probably felt like they shouldn't have lost to in London.
Yeah.
I think in bye week, I think we'll be fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Flex on them.
Well, that'll wrap it up for this week's edition of Final Score Overtime. Make sure, again, to follow us on Twitter, all of our social media stuff, and, of course, our game of the week this week. That's going to be super exciting.
Fort Stockton, Monahan.
Yes,
Yep.
Fort Stockton and Monahans. I did forget. I'm sorry. And, of course, tune in to the Final Score, 10:30 Friday. You guys have anything that you want to say before we go?
That's all I have. Do it.